Hi there, and welcome to another lunar report in this ongoing human experience that we're all in here together. Yeah, the cosmic weather is always changing, but yet there is some kind of method to the madness. It really is a chaos and a cosmos together. So we're just coming out of eclipse season, and I feel we're still actually in eclipse season because these energies that are evoked and invoked during eclipses have long-reaching effects. That's why they're so powerful. That's why they're different from a regular new moon or a regular full moon. But as we know, the lunar cycle is a 13-month calendar, and the last month of the lunar cycle is Pisces. It is the last sign in the zodiac. And so, even though we're having a new moon in Pisces on March 18th, it's also the completion of a whole lunar year. So if you look back to last year, around April, around the middle to later April, that would have been the beginning of the lunar year that we're completing in this last new moon cycle of the lunar calendar. So in a way, it's the end and the beginning together. So, whenever we're coming to a phase of completion, it can always feel even more intense because the energies that we've been working with for the last lunar year are kind of culminating what we've been learning, what we've been seeing in ourselves, what we've been dealing with in life, in the world, with other people. There's a point where that energy now there's some major completion that's happening. And at the same time, because it's a new moon, it may be that there's a new way that these completions are happening. There may be a deeper connection, a deeper awareness of what it is that's actually completing and preparing us for a new cycle. And what I've been seeing a lot with the process that we've been in with these eclipses is the symbol of the cross, because Pisces has been used and associated with spirituality, with our connection to our true nature, our essential nature, and to existence, to the universe. It's considered the oceanic consciousness, that we're all a wave in this ocean, a drop in this ocean, that we don't have a center of our own, that we're part of this wholeness, this mysterious wholeness that we exist in. And the symbol of the cross has been used in many, many, many cultures, and I find it to be a very accurate way of navigating our own life experience, our own consciousness, that the horizontal line in the cross that goes from east to west or from west to east represents the material world, the mind, the past and the future, which is the mind. And the vertical line represents the vertical movement that goes beyond the mind, that's connected with the mystery of life, that's connected with everything that's not part of the material world, the invisible, etheric world that also exists. And that point at the center of the cross is where eternity, the vertical line, and time, the horizontal line, where they meet. And to me, they're not really lines. The horizontal to me is like a circle. It goes around and around and around. And you can see in your life when there's repetitive experiences in the outside world that keep showing up. To me, that's the horizontal line. Or the repetition in the world, the constant wars, the constant violence, and also the constant, greed for material possessions, the illusion that if we have everything that we desire, that's going to make us blissful, when in my experience that's not the case, because bliss comes from the vertical line. And when you're tuning into the vertical line, when you want to raise your consciousness, when you want to raise your vibration and ascend in your awareness, to me that's like a spiral movement going upward. And in order to do that, you have to be willing to turn your back on time, to turn your back on the past and the future, and be in that present moment at the center of the cross where eternity and time meet. And to choose, to consciously choose to turn your back on time and enter into a deeper connection with the vertical flow. So I feel like with this new moon being in Pisces, there's a completion happening in the way that we relate to the material world, the outer world, and a new door opening in our connection to the vertical experience. And this is going to be very unique for each person, and many astrology systems out there that are not connected with nature are not working with the vertical flow. So I'm using true sidereal, true sky astrology that reflects nature perfectly. This is a vertical system, whereas tropical and Vedic astrology are man-made systems, separate from nature, their ideas and concepts. So they're working with the horizontal circle, the horizontal line. And it's interesting to me that at this time, this is really coming into the collective in a very slow and gradual way, that these man-made systems, not just man-made astrology systems, but man-made systems in general, are not necessarily aligned with nature, aligned with the universe and how creation is naturally. And they create a lot of trouble. They create a lot of conflict. They create division. They create more mind. And mind is division. Mind is polarity, duality. So this new moon in Pisces is an opportunity to step deeper into the vertical flow consciously, to turn your back on the past and the future. I'm not talking about repression. I'm just talking about awareness and consciousness of being in this moment. And this moment being the true reality of your experience, and facing that and encountering that. And that's where astrology can be very helpful, is just showing the opportunities depending on your unique life and your unique intention for your life, giving us the support and the possibilities of how to work with things in a way that brings transformation, real transformation and transcendence, which is what Pisces represents. So we're working with the Pisces-Virgo axis here. And the energy is focused in Pisces. We've got the sun and the moon in Pisces. We've got Neptune and Saturn and Venus in Pisces, and Chiron in Pisces. So there's a huge amount of energy illuminating the house of Pisces, the 12th house. And depending on your chart, the house will be different. And you can go down below if you choose to and use the free chart calculator and see which house Pisces is in your chart, and that'll give you more of a personal interpretation of where this transcendence and transformation and alignment with the vertical flow can be brought in to bring more balance into your world. But when we're working with the Pisces-Virgo axis, in this situation with all the energy illuminating Pisces, we're going to be facing Virgo challenges in a certain way. We're going to be bringing that transcendent vertical perspective to the Virgo axis. And Virgo is earth. It's the physical world, the material world. And it can have, if we're looking at polarities, the polarity of Virgo has a lot to do with the mind. Virgo is ruled by Mercury, which is the mental process, the communication process. It has a lot to do with analysis and research, and it's a very ingenious sign when it comes to the practical physical world. That's why it rules healing and organization. It has its own way of working with the mind. But my sense is what we're working with here on this axis is the tendency of the Virgo polarity to be self-critical, to be focused too much on perfection and achieving perfection, judging ourselves and holding ourselves to a standard of perfection that is not humanly possible, and also holding the world to a standard of perfection and other people to a standard of perfection that is not possible. Because when we're looking at the cross and the vertical flow, when we're in the middle of that cross where eternity and time are meeting, we enter into, if we can accept reality exactly as it's showing up in this moment, we enter into the natural state of bliss, which is our natural state, bliss. But when we're identified and attached and focused on the horizontal line, on the circle that's going round and round, we step out of our nature, our bliss nature, and we enter into the mind. And this can be very much felt with the Virgo polarity. So on the positive side of Virgo, it's very much connected with nature, with beauty, with bringing ourselves back to more of a state of purity, not in a perfectionistic way, but looking at ourself as our essential self, as our pure self, as the design that nature created us to be in this life, our natural design, our essential nature. Virgo is also very much about returning to that, and that's why, to me, it's the polarity of Pisces, because it's the practical application of the spiritual energy, of the spiritual understanding that we are part of the whole. And therefore, if we have these ideas, Virgo, these perfectionistic ideas, self-critical, self-judging, condemning ideas that go against the whole, because the whole is creating everything. So if we're going against what is, if we're going against who we are, we're going against the whole, and we can't win that battle because we're only a part. We don't have that kind of power. We're a part of the whole, and our power is in acceptance and trust in life, that everything is exactly the way it is. That's our power. That's Pisces, letting go of the individual ego idea about the way we should be, the way others should be, the way life should be, and surrendering into the unknown, into the mystery that has created everything that exists. So that's the opportunity here with this new moon in Pisces, and the opportunity to expand out of the horizontal consciousness of just the material world and the outside world, and to straddle that middle point, to turn our back on time, and to step deeper into the vertical flow. So taking a look at the chart here, just to give a recap of where everybody is. We have Pluto at 4 degrees of Capricorn, going deeper into Capricorn, giving us this foundational grounding energy with which to work with all this transformational energy that's available. We've got Mercury retrograde at 12 degrees of Aquarius, conjunct the North Node at 12 degrees of Aquarius. So this is bringing an alignment, a reworking, possibility for realizing and revealing the patterns in the mind that we would be working with on this polarity. And Mercury bringing awareness, the higher aspect of Mercury, bringing awareness to the new directions that may be being revealed to us in the ways that we communicate, not only with ourselves internally, but also how we communicate with others in our lives, whether it be verbal or nonverbal communication. So Mercury is going to be conjunct the North Node here for a number of days around this new moon, because very shortly after this new moon, Mercury will go direct, and then it's going to go over the North Node again. So there's a lot of energy available here to have inner vision around our new direction, our forward motion, and to really step out of the past as Mercury will be going direct, and to allow new energy to come in. So then we also have Mars in Aquarius at 16 degrees, relatively close to this conjunction, giving us more energy, again, to be able to see the bigger picture of what we're working towards in our outer life and also in our inner world. And then if we move on through the chart, we've got the Sun and the Moon conjunct there at 8 degrees of Pisces. Neptune at 12 degrees, and Saturn at 14. So all of those energies are working together, and we've been working with this Neptune-Saturn conjunction for the last year, and it's very much part of this, to me, this completion with this Pisces new moon, that Saturn is now ahead of Neptune. It's moving forward. Everything is direct at this point, except for Mercury. So after the 20th or the 21st, everything is direct, and there's some real momentum here now to start working with everything that has been on our plate for the last 4 or 5 months, and to bring some kind of completion, to allow some kind of completion, some kind of realization to happen, so that a whole new energy can then come in. So we're creating space by allowing things to complete and to let go, by focusing on the vertical flow instead of the horizontal. By turning our back on time, we step out of the past and out of the future, and that creates the space that's needed for what's available right now to come in. And what I see being available is a very deep healing around our connection to our spiritual nature, our essential nature, versus our egoic ideologies that we've taken on from the world, that have been put on us. And, the ego is part of the process. I'm not condemning the ego. We have to form an ego as children. We need to have an identity in order to function in the world. But at a certain point, and it's very individual for each person, that ego structure starts to break down and we start to lose identification. And there can be a lot of fear and confusion around that. And this is also the shadow side of Pisces, is that when we head into that nebulous no man's land of the inner world and the spiritual dimension, we can feel very overwhelmed and lost, and that we're disappearing, that we're dissolving. But it's not us that's disappearing and dissolving. It's the false sense of self that we've been given, that we had to create to function in the world. It's not who we really are. Who we really are is part of this great wholeness. And in order to step deeper into who we really are and allow that to present itself, we need to also allow the ego structure to break down what's not true, what's not real. And that's what I see in this whole process. And then we can come back into the world, into life, as who we really are, as what we were designed to be by nature, our true nature. And bliss is the natural outcome of that experience, when we can accept who we are from an essential place, instead of trying to be what we think we're supposed to be. And Chiron is still there. We've got Venus at 26 degrees of Pisces, bringing more love, more self-love, more potential for valuing who we really are. And also bringing love to that polarity point of Virgo, where we may have learned to be very self-critical, very perfectionistic, and also that way with other people, holding ourselves to an impossible standard, creating stress and tension, analyzing life instead of enjoying life. And that, to me, is the opportunity here, to bring the attention and the energy to enjoying life instead of to being perfect. And with Chiron there at 35 degrees of Pisces, still bringing healing in on a spiritual level. Chiron has been in Pisces since about 2016 or so, because Pisces is the second largest constellation. It takes the sun about 42 days to move through Pisces. Virgo even longer, about 47 days. So this huge pileup in Pisces is really giving us the support that we need to transcend and to enter into a deeper relationship with the vertical flow. Then we have Uranus in Taurus, who's direct now, who's sextile to the Sun and the Moon and Neptune and Saturn, giving us the support and the energy and the grounding of this energy. It's very important to ground during these kinds of processes where you have all of this focus in one element, in this case, water, Pisces. Uranus is giving us a connection to the body. It's slowing down the energy of Uranus, which tends to be very fast-moving. It rules the nervous system. So it's slowing that down, but it also can bring in some very new and innovative ideas about how we want to move forward, and using our physical creative energy in new ways, where we're literally creating new forms in the world. And then we have Jupiter in Gemini, who turned direct on March 11th, bringing us into a forward motion now where we can reap the rewards from this long process that we've been in since the new moon in Ophiuchus on December 19th. We can now step into a more expanded experience of what we're ready to create in the world, and the gifts and the blessings that are going to start showing up in our lives based on our love for ourselves, that we can receive them, because they're always available. And now that Jupiter is direct, they're going to be very available in our outer world, in our physical world. And if we can love ourselves and honor ourselves, we can receive these gifts from Jupiter and see what gifts show up over the next month or so as he gathers some momentum. And then over on the left side of the chart, we've got the South Node in Leo making its way through Leo there, opposite Mars, the North Node, and Mercury. So helping us to really have access to some of the past wounding in the heart, some of the past wounding around our creativity, and bringing that to a close so that we can begin a new chapter from a place of more wholeness. And, you know, when it comes to creative energy, which to me, Leo, being ruled by the sun, creative energy can be expressed in Leo in so many ways, but it is a playful energy, a celebrating energy with life. And so all of this process that we're in is really to close the door on ways in which our perfectionism and our self-criticalness has inhibited our playfulness and our creativity from really expressing itself, from really enjoying life. And that this South Node energy, how things were in the past, when we get off the horizontal wheel, we can start to tap into a whole new way of enjoying being alive and being here and being in the world and being with other people. And that's the North Node expression of it. But it's very important for us to be willing to let go of how we may have enjoyed things in the past that's no longer relevant to who we are now, and to really allow ourselves to check in with ourselves about who we are now in present time, to be at the center of that cross where eternity and time meet, and to allow ourselves during this lunation, during this lunar month coming up, to turn our back on the past and the future, to turn our back on time, and to step into the vertical flow, into this moment, and to enjoy as much as we're capable of what's happening right now, and to accept life as it is, to accept reality as it's showing up without thinking that we know better, without allowing the thought process to interfere, that things should be some other way, no matter what the challenges that are showing up may be. To trust life, this is Pisces, to trust the whole, that it has our best interests at heart, and that if we can focus on enjoying life and sharing our love and our creativity, then we are fulfilling our destiny here on earth. So that was a mouthful. Thanks so much for joining me and for tuning in to this Cosmic Weather Report, and just wishing you a really beautiful, magical new moon in Pisces on March 18th with lots of love from Northern California. Until our next time, ciao for now.